Hi, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Live. I'm your host, Crystal Fry, personal identity coach, transformational communication strategist, and many of you know me as a woman's best friend. Tonight, our topic is an audience of one. Who are you when it's just you? Now, I want to welcome everyone who is coming in and joining us live, both on Facebook and over on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you like and share this video out. Make sure you turn your notifications on so you know when we're going live. Tag someone in this, start a watch party, because I really feel like this is a question. I know that if you followed me for any length of time, you know that this really talking about who we are as individuals is something that's very personal to me and something I'm very passionate about. But there are a lot of other people who need to hear this too. So go ahead and start a watch party, tag people, share this out. As we are getting into this, as you come in, say hello so I can say hello back to you. And also, if you're watching the replay, let me know where you're watching from. Our topic tonight, an audience of one. Who are you when it's just you? I had a really powerful conversation this afternoon with a woman that I am working with in a business capacity, but also really getting to know on a personal level too. And I hadn't planned to talk about this tonight because, of course, it just happened earlier this afternoon. But it was such a powerful conversation and really helping to drive home the fact that there are a lot of us, women especially, there are a lot of us who truly define ourselves by what we do. We define ourselves as being moms or wives or caretakers, taking care of our family, taking care of others. We define ourselves by our jobs. What do we do for a living? Are we, and that, you guys, that doesn't just pertain to, women who are CEOs or, VPs, high level. We define ourselves. We have a tendency to define ourselves and find our value and our validation through our jobs, through the things that we do for work. And so as we're talking about our topic tonight, being an audience of one, do you really know who you are when all of that is gone? When you strip that down, when you stop thinking about what you do as a mom or what you do as a wife or what you do as an employee, whether, no matter what level you are, do you know who you are when you remove yourself from that? And I really want you to ponder that question. Like, I really want you to think about that, because as I was speaking to her this afternoon, she shared a bit of her story with me and how she actually transitioned out of working in a corporate environment, very successful, working in a corporate environment, very successful despite a lot of different obstacles, how she transitioned from that into being a full-time entrepreneur, into running her own business, not working for anyone else, and what happened when that transition occurred. Now, I'm not going to give a whole bunch of that away because it is her story. And I'm talking with her about perhaps coming on the show to share it with you. So I don't want to share it, but it really drove home the point that I have been trying to help other women, really think about and really start understanding that we, a lot of times, and you guys, I did this myself. You've heard me talk about this before, how I was really defining myself by the roles in my life. I did not know who I was without those things. I couldn't identify myself. And why is that so important? Why am I talking about that so much? Because when you allow, last week I talked about allowing, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I talked about the cost of allowing other people to define you or other things to define you, allowing yourself to be defined by anyone or anything other than you. And the cost of that is your peace. Because if you're not the person who's in control of defining who you are, you're allowing someone else to do that. You're giving that power away, whether they realize it, whether you realize it or not. And when you are not in control of who you are as a person, if you're not in control of defining what that looks like for you, it's very difficult to be in a place where you feel truly fulfilled and happy. And listen, now we got into some deep stuff this afternoon, and it was really great. Again, it was one of those unseen, unforeseen, blessed conversations. And I'm grateful for every conversation like that I have, but it really drove it home for me, because the question of what do you lose when you lose the definition of that role? What do you lose when you lose that job unexpectedly, or when when you're, from a mom perspective, when your kids move out of the house? You've spent all this time being a mom to them, having kids in the house, being right there with them, helping them, teaching them. And when you lose that, and you never lose being a mom, but when they're gone, when they're not there for you to help and take care of and things of that nature, what do you lose? And really, when you think about that, I know for me, my oldest son is getting ready to leave for a time. And I have had some feelings about that. And I know I'm going to have some more. Now I have another son, and he will still be around for, quite a few more years. We still have a little ways to go for him. And of course, as parents, we want to raise our kids to be self-sustaining and be out on their own. But you don't really understand how much of yourself is poured into that until you're no longer pouring in at the same level. And that has brought about, some change. Again, I'll go back to the relationship with the job, because as women, listen, anyone who thinks that it's easier for a woman to get in and do things, it's really just not. Okay. We, unfortunately, while there's been a lot of progress and a lot of change, we still live in a place where there are a lot of industries, there are a lot of areas that are, male dominated. It makes it an interesting journey. I will say that. It makes it an interesting journey when you are a woman, especially when you have male counterparts and the treatment is not equal. So I'm going to leave that there, because that's not what we're talking about tonight. I'll save that for another live. But when you look at that, so many women define themselves and really identify and find value and find their worth and judge themselves. Ladies, we judge ourselves by our status at the office. Say it's not true. And if you're not in that place and you don't, that's not how you see yourself, one, I want you to re-examine and make sure. Two, if you're really not in that place anymore, my hat's off to you. But there's so many of us who really do. We attach to that role because it gives us that sense of validation. But what happens when that is gone? What happens when that is no longer the case? When you don't have that status to fall back on? When you can no longer say, I'm the CEO of an organization, for whatever reason. The reason does not matter as much as what I want you to think about in what are you without that? And that goes for anything in your life that you're attaching to. And that's really what it is. It's an attachment to something external to validate us internally, when that's actually completely backwards. What we should be doing is validating ourselves internally. We're validating who we are internally and letting that provide what we're doing externally. Let that provide our performance, let that drive, all of those things, instead of the other way around, which is the way it seems to be right now for a lot of people. So, who are you when it's just you? When when all of the noise is gone. Again, when you're stripping down your roles, when all of the noise is gone, wife, mom, sister, friend, caregiver, caretaker, problem solver, CEO, entrepreneur, when all of those things are gone, when all of that noise is gone, can you still hear your own song? And if you can't, then it's time to go find the music again. And how do you do that? Well, for me, it took a journey. It took a process. It was one that I started by myself and had a lot of difficulty trying to navigate through because I didn't know how to. I really had never sat down and thought about the question, who am I aside from everything else that I do? Because when you asked me who I was, I ticked off all of my roles, right? I'm married, I have 2 kids, I'm active in my community, I'm active in my church, I do this for a living, all of these things. And yes, all of those things are a part of me, but they are not me. And so as I started off that journey, it was hard because I didn't really know what to do. I read and listened to a lot of self-help books and podcasts and watched videos and did all kinds of things. And for me, it was a very emotional process for me. I was fortunate enough to have someone come into my life at just the right time to really help guide that journey, to really help me ask some questions that needed to be asked and answered, to really dig in and hone in on what it was that I needed to do as part of my self-discovery journey. And so coming out on the other side of that has allowed me to take all of that I went through, all of that I learned, all of that was messy and excuse me, sometimes very ugly. I think I talked earlier today on my live about being an ugly crier, like, sorry, it's just the truth. But it allowed me to be able to create a pathway for others. And so I'm good with having to go through all the mess. I didn't really think about it at the time, but I'm okay with that because it's allowed me to create a process for other women to follow. It's allowed me to light the path, if you will, so that you don't have to sit down and try to figure it out on your own, so that you don't have to go through and be pulled in so many directions just trying to get one answer. You've got a blueprint, and I love a blueprint. Okay, I love a blueprint. There is absolutely room in the world to create from scratch, and that is a beautiful thing. But when you're serious about doing something, if there is already someone who's done it and can light the path for you, can light the lamps along your way, why do you want to start from scratch and fumble around? You waste so much time trying to fumble around and do it all, figure it out on your own. Trust me, I know. Been there, done that. So scrolling right here on the bottom of the screen is actually the link for the course that I have developed, the 90-day self-discovery journey. This course that I have developed in order to take you through that process so that you don't have to fumble around, so that you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. And what's even better is I am with you the entire way. So that you can sign up and get more information. You can get more information about the course here at bit.ly/SLT90. And in that, it's going to explain to you kind of what we're doing in the course, with the outcomes, expectations, all that kind of good stuff in there. But more importantly, It's a way for you to find you. And that is what it is about. Because listen, there are a lot, I don't know, find the word that's bigger than a lot. There are tons of people out here, men and women, but I'm mostly focused on the women, who are not living their best life because they're worried about what other people think about their lives, about their choices, about what shoes they're wearing, about where their kids go to daycare or preschool, or what private school they're in, or they're not in private school, or what job they have, what their level of education is, all of these things. And tell me, what do any of those things have to do with you as a person, you as an individual? Does having a college degree give you more empathy? Does having a college degree change the feelings of your heart, who you are at the core? Does where your child go to preschool really? Listen, there are tons of people out here who are walking around in a life that is fake because they don't know who they are. And they're scared to death of what happens if all of that goes away because they don't know who they are at their core. Listen, I get it. I just told you, I spent my time in that process trying to understand and discover who I was as an individual. Because I got to tell you, on the road, I was lost. You want to talk about defining yourself by your job? Listen, I went back to school to get my degree. And it took me, because I was working full time, 2 kids, very active in lots of different things. It took me 5 years to get my degree. That entire time, I think I might have slept on average about 4 hours a night. It was dreadful. It was miserable. I don't even know how I survived that period of time in my life. And yes, we talk about, the will and the desire and, the determination and being persistent and really doing the things that you need to do to accomplish your goal. And yes, I get all of that because that's the only way I got through. But do you know the whole reason why I had to start that process in the first place? It was to elevate myself at my workplace, which is fine. There are different requirements for different things. Like, I get all of that. But that degree created a lot of debt for me. And it didn't teach me anything that I didn't already know to do the job that I wanted. So, while it's not a waste, because everything has a purpose, I pushed myself to do that because I attached my value and my worth as a person, as a woman, as an individual to where I was in my job. Because that's where I was at the time. That's what I felt like I needed to do. I needed to prove myself. Okay, do you get that? Do you understand? Does that resonate with you? I needed to prove myself to people outside of me. Why? Why? This is not their life, it's mine. So anyway, I'm going to wrap all of this up. But I really want to drive home. I really want you to ask yourself the question, who are you when it's just you? When there's nothing else and there's no one else around? Are you the same person? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Do you know who that person is? That's the better question. And if you don't, I have a solution for you. Simple as that. I'm a big proponent of getting the help that you need, no matter what that looks like. Some of us just don't know what help we need. Some of us don't even know that we need help. That was me. I didn't realize that I needed some assistance on my journey. Thankfully, the right person stepped in at the right time. And I hope that whether it's me or whether it's someone else, I hope that if you are in the place where you are starting to recognize that you may need a little help along the way to get you to whatever your goals are, not just your, I specialize in personal identity and communications. That's what I do. If you need help in a different area, get it, go find it. Because what we need in this world is tons more people being who they are, who they were created to be at their highest level. Because when we operate, and I say we, I'm really talking about women. Let's face it, women make the world go round. Sorry, guys. But when we operate at our highest level, we can do so much more good for everyone, for ourselves, for our families, for the organizations that we work for our friends. We can do so much more when we are whole and complete and we know who we are. We can do so much more. And here's the thing about doing so much more when you know who you are, is that the things that you do, when I say so much more, I'm not talking about doing more things, right? I'm not talking about, taking more activities onto your plate. I'm not talking about that in the sense of do so much more. When you understand who you are, when you stand in your value and you know what is important to you and what is not, and you are confident enough to say no to things that don't serve you. Again, not in a selfish way, but they don't add any value to your life. You don't get anything out of them. You just take away from yourself. When you're in that position, the value that you bring to the people and the activities that you choose to put yourself into is tremendous. It's tremendous. When you know who you are a better wife. You are a better mother. You are a better employee. You are a better executive when you know who you are, because it's coming from a totally different place. Your validation is no longer dependent upon your external circumstances. The value and the self-worth, that is no longer dependent on outside circumstances because it's coming from within you. And it will shine out when it's coming from within you. So if you need help, if you have questions, feel free to message me. Feel free to send me a note and ask whatever question you need to ask about it. If you are interested, if you are ready to take the next step, then go to this link right here that's down at the bottom, and I will also put it in the comments. The registration link is right here. So take 3 minutes. Take 3 minutes of your time, okay? What are you doing anyway? You're scrolling on your phone. Take 3 minutes of your time. Go check out this link and see if this is a way that I can support you. I would love to be on the journey with you. I would be honored to help you through this process. I would be honored to walk with you side by side as you go through this. Because listen, I've been there. I've been on my own journey. I know how critical that support is when you make the decision that you're going to find the real you. It's life-changing. And that is totally not an exaggeration. It is life-changing. So I'm going to wrap up and say thank you all for joining me tonight. And again, for those of you who are watching in the replay, make sure that you use the hashtag replay and tell me where you're watching from. It's been my absolute pleasure, as it is every Friday night. And I will see you guys all again very soon. I hope you have a wonderful night. I am Crystal Fry, your personal identity coach and transformational communication strategist, and of course, a woman's best friend. Have a great night.